This video is on Natalie Bollinger to Officer Lolatai. Small world. I'm going to explain to you how these situations connect. Alright, so Boulder Police Department hunts homeless people. That's what they do. They don't care about actual crime. They want to go after homeless people because rich people in Boulder don't want to see poverty. So, when I first met Natalie, she was about 13 or 14 and she was selling drugs at the Boulder Public Library for her father. I didn't find that out until years later, but I used to always discourage them from going down there. Them, Maddie Boa, Shiloh Epp, Brittany Enwall, well, pretty much all of them. Anybody who was not 18. Brianna Hernandez Cordona, Stefan, Michael, Veronica, pretty much all of them. Now, when I hurt my back and the Boulder police wouldn't leave me alone, it was Natalie who rescued me. This was when she was 18, and this is when I started to remember her name and actually care what her name was. Before that, I didn't want the trouble of having little kids coming over and wanting to sit next to me everywhere I went. It just so happened that Derek Parrish was 18. He was right around high school age, and a lot of those people hung out with him. He hung out with his mom, and I was friends with him and his mom. Now, there's a guy named Emory. Emory, one morning when Natalie and her sister Alycia were about 14, Emory was in a sleeping bag with one of them, and he was 26 or 28 at the time. And the other one was Arturo, and he was in a sleeping bag with the other one. And I told those young women that they needed to go home. That was entirely inappropriate. Of course, the cops don't care. They don't take reports from homeless people. You try to make a report as a homeless people, you're more likely to get arrested or beaten up and arrested. So, Emory, now I didn't see Natalie and Alycia for a lot of years. I finally met up with them when they were about 17, almost 18. Didn't know how old they were, I just knew it had been a few years since I'd seen them. And they gave me their Facebooks to hit them up, and of course I did, and then I forgot about them. I had a lot of other stuff to deal with. Now during that time, Wings, that's Lindsay Ziegler, she got pregnant by Emory, and her baby died, and she walked around for 2 days with a dead baby. Wings, she didn't do so good. That really messed her head up a lot. Of course, Emory didn't really give a shit. He's a very selfish person. It takes a very selfish person to be 26 years old and trying to canoodle with a 14-year-old. So, there was an officer named Officer Waylon Lolatai. After Natalie disappeared, Officer Waylon Lolatai assaulted me at the hospital. I was trying to make a police report. I was trying to get the information that the detectives in Broomfield had asked for. Detective Jai Rogers and Detective Mark Peterson. That was just a ploy for them to send me to Denver or send me to Boulder so that I was out of their jurisdiction and couldn't make a report. Because they outright refused there. Every officer at the Broomfield police station that night refused to take my report. Now, later on, Officer Lolatai took part in 6 more assaults against homeless people or people that he thought were homeless. The ones that were against actual homeless people, that Tony Kovaleski feller from Denver 7, I believe it's Denver 7, he didn't bother with them. Not unless they were minorities or lived in a house. So, one of these minorities was a female named Michelle Rodriguez. She was assaulted by Officer Lolatai after I was assaulted. And she was on Tony Kovaleski's show. That's because Darren O'Connor, even though I had let him know about the officer's conduct and was being as useful as I can, Officer Waylon Lolatai, well, Darren O'Connor didn't keep his end of the bargain. Darren O'Connor never came forward. When Tony Kovaleski asked him about Officer Lolatai, he didn't even bother bringing up my name. Darren O'Connor is a piece of shit. He knows that it's a homeless issue and not a racism issue. But the reason he didn't bring up my name is because he was trying to play it off as a racism issue. Well, I recorded a conversation with him that shows that it was a homeless issue and not a race issue. Now, what does Michelle Rodriguez have to do with all of this? Well, she was roommates with Wings, or Lindsay Ziegler, who had a baby with Emory, who was the one that was in the sleeping bag with a 14-year-old Natalie Bollinger. Might have been Alycia Bollinger, I don't know. I didn't know either of their names at the time, and I really couldn't tell them apart. Didn't care to. I mean, I could tell them apart. Natalie had cuts all up and down her arms at that point in time, and Alycia didn't. But then again, Natalie never got heard, and Alycia did. Natalie always did what Alycia wanted. What's this all got to do with me? I know all of these people. See, that's the thing about falsely accusing someone of the things I was falsely accused of. People aren't going to be in your corner. They want to hide their names. They want to hide their involvement. Well, fuck you. You're a coward. You should know me better than that. Alycia Bollinger belongs in prison for the things that she did. I'm not talking about going on a high-speed chase with her dad. I'm not talking about selling heroin and selling meth. I mean, don't get me wrong, she did those things. But I'm talking about the things that she did to me and the things that her friends and family did to me. Because she was too much of a coward to come forward and tell the truth. Officer Waylon Lolatai assaulted me because they already had a set plan. They had already decided that between taking my report and assaulting me and pretending like they had to do that, it's disgusting. It's like the Officer Jonas, Amanda Jonas of Boulder County, and Officer Brian Valenzuela of Sheridan, which is Arapahoe County, working together to steal evidence. And even though I should have gone to Arapahoe County, I was taken to Boulder County Jail and assaulted repeatedly. And although my evidence should have stayed with me or gone to the police to be investigated, gone to the FBI and the Secret Service, who I had literally committed those crimes to try to force those people to take a look. But they didn't. They were only interested in covering the wrongdoing of those officers. They had no interest in looking at the truth. All of those officers, well, I'd say they should be reprimanded, but in truth, They should all be in prison, not jail, not civil court, but prison. They overstepped their boundaries. They overstepped the law. They decided that the laws did not apply to them and that omitting evidence was acceptable. Fuck every goddamn one of you who didn't speak up. Every single nurse practitioner and therapist that saw these things going on in these Facebook groups, every single one of them who didn't come forward about it and at least try to make a police report, broke the law. Because these are mandated reporters, just like every single officer, just like every therapist, every nurse, and every doctor. Every single teacher. These are all mandated reporters. Every single one of them broke the law by not coming forward. Every single one.